Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Mark Paoletta joins us this hour. We'll talk to him about some of the latest in the Biden crime family. And then Hans von Spakovsky is here at 5 o'clock. We'll get into today's hearing as a guy who apparently knows everything about the Fani Willis-Nathan Wade relationship all of a sudden has lost his memory very conveniently today. He can't recall anything. He hit his head walking into the courtroom. It's a wild medical mystery. You can talk to us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Big meeting today at the White House as House Speaker Mike Johnson pays a visit to Joe Biden. Mitch McConnell was there, and Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. It was a big meeting to, we got to keep funding the government. We can't let the government shut down. And so they're having this big, theatrical meeting. And it reminded me, I saw our friend Simon Atiba posted a video clip of this to the internet yesterday, but it reminded me of when Donald Trump got Chuck and Nancy together over at the White House, and they're all sitting around inside the Oval Office right in front of the fireplace. By the way, Biden had the fireplace roaring today at the White House. Do you know how warm it is out right now in D.C.? Let me say, it is 60 degrees right now. At the time that he was doing it, it was apparently like around 63 degrees outside. They had the fireplace roaring in the Oval Office. Now, what is the point of that? What would be the point? He doesn't need the fireplace to heat the place. They could do that without the fire. What is he that cold? Is he that old? Is his circulation that bad? Do they need to keep a roaring fireplace going in 63-degree weather? What is even happening over there? So anyway, that's a sidebar. But there was a fire roaring today. Here's what it sounded like back when Donald Trump welcomed Chuck and Nancy over, and Mike Pence looked very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. He's just like clenching his fists, sitting right next to Trump, looking around, trying to figure out what to do.
Vote of the Senate. I need 10 senators. That's the problem.
You have the White House, you have the Senate.
I have the White House. The White House is done, and the House would give me the vote if I wanted it. But I can't because I need, Nancy, I need 10 votes from Chuck.
All right, let me say something here.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need border security. Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security. People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important. Chuck, did you want to say something?
Yeah, here's what I want to say. We have a lot of disagreements here. The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall, whether it's effective or whatever. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You have called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government because let me just finish, because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing with our military...
You just said it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
effective.
effective.
Without a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
Yeah.
Let's call a halt to this. We've come in here as the first branch of government, Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
Open.
We're going to keep it open if we have border security.
Anyway, so and then they go on. The Democrats, it's so funny back then. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi then are like, "Can we get the cameras out of here, please? We do not want the press in the room with us." And Trump seemed totally content doing this in front of the cameras. They are not the same as we are. They are not the same at all. These lefties, the last thing they want is transparency, exposure, people to be able to kick the tires on their strategy, so on their agenda. So today, Mike Johnson goes to the White House, and Axios reports, headline just from an hour ago, Mike Johnson cornered at intense White House meeting. They write, House Speaker Mike Johnson was confronted from all sides on government funding and Ukraine aid during a White House meeting with President Biden and fellow congressional leaders on Tuesday. The House is the primary sticking point in Congress's ability to head off a partial government shutdown set to begin March 1st. It was an intense meeting. It was an honest meeting, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told reporters. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Johnson, quote, said unequivocally he wants to avoid a government shutdown. Schumer added, we made it clear that means not letting any of the appropriations bills lapse, which means you need some stopgap bills. Schumer said he and other attendees, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, pressed Johnson on Ukraine aid as well. This is funny. So this is according to the Democrats, Mitch McConnell was standing with them shoulder to shoulder. Our most important issue is Ukraine funding. We need to send more money to Ukraine. What about a special inspector general to make sure it's being spent well? No, we don't need one of those. How about some accountability? No, we don't need any of that. What about that report that the Ukrainians just tried to assassinate Tucker Carlson? Did that come up at all today in the White House press briefing? Did anyone ask any questions about that? Does U.S. intelligence agree with that assessment? Was U.S. intelligence in on that assessment? Can you give us some answers? Anything? Nothing. Schumer said that he and all other attendees, including Mitch McConnell, pressed Johnson for Ukraine aid. The meeting on Ukraine was one of the most intense I've ever encountered in my many meetings in the Oval Office, said Schumer. Johnson told reporters that House Republicans have been working in, quote, good faith around the clock every single day on a spending bill. Quote, we're very optimistic, he said. I hope the other leaders came out here and told you the same. He said the House is, quote, actively pursuing and investigating all the various options for passing Ukraine aid. He said, but the first priority is our border. In fact, I want you to hear some of the audio. This is Chuck Schumer today following the meeting, stepping out to the sticks just outside the White House.
What made this meeting one of the most intense you've ever had?
The urgency of supporting Ukraine and the consequences to the people of America, to America's strength, if we don't do anything and don't do anything soon. I was so shaken by what I saw at the border.
It wasn't our border, by the way. He's not talking about our border. I was shaken. I was quaking. I was practically flaking. I was all over the place, seeing what was happening at that border. What border? Ukraine's border. Aren't you the top Democrat in the United States of America, in the United States Senate? Where was the last time you heard Chuck Schumer or any of these goons sound like this when it came to the situation on our border? Can you find a single piece of tape where they have this much energy and passion? Boy, I was hot about what was happening on that border. Which one? Ukraine's.
The people of America, to America's strength, if we don't do anything and don't do anything soon. I was so shaken by what I saw at the border. I was strengthened by the strength of Zelensky and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian soldiers, but shaken that here they are.
The slobbering all over Zelensky is just so unbecoming of a United States senator.
Fighting without arms against a brutal dictator who will just do anything to kill them. And the intensity in that room was surprising to me. But because of the passion of the president, the vice president, Leader Jeffries, Leader McConnell, and myself.
Notice, by the way, who's all on the same team. He considers McConnell to be his boy. McConnell's doing everything, to fight for Chuck Schumer's agenda. I guess so. Mike Johnson, at least the way he's representing himself, was like the one dissenting voice in the room, and it's helpful. He's Speaker of the House. That's an important role. Here's what he had to say.
It was frank and honest. I think we need more frank and honest conversations on Capitol Hill, so I was happy to participate in this. We did that as a group, and then I had a one-on-one for a period of time with the President, just he and I in the Oval Office. Let me say this. When I showed up today, My purpose was to express what I believe is the obvious truth, and that is that we must take care of America's needs first. When you talk about America's needs, you have to talk first about our open border.
You have to talk first about our open border. What are you going to do to secure this border? This border. Meanwhile, Politico has its reports today. They say that Speaker Johnson made, quote, unequivocally clear that he wants to avoid a government shutdown during a private Tuesday meeting with President Joe Biden and other congressional leaders. According to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Biden's stalled request for Ukraine aid, however, remains more in doubt. They say we've got 4 days to go. And I think to which most people say, who cares? Who cares? If there's ever, is there anything in that you could possibly imagine that would justify not partially funding the federal government? Is there any issue where you could say, yeah, that'd be worth stopping the funding for now, if that's the leverage it took? What would it be? What issue would it be? How about having a country? How about that? How about like having some sense of sovereignty? How about not abetting an invasion, not bringing in enough illegals to outpace the population of 36 states just while Joe Biden's been president, which of course is what has happened. That's what's happened under Biden. And all of the pandemonium that comes with it. To the point now that American citizens, a majority of them, support building a wall. Did you know that? A majority of all American citizens, according to a Monmouth University poll just released yesterday, now say that they support building a wall on our southern border to stop the inflow. 53% of Americans support that position. 46% opposed. Do you know what it was during Trump? That same poll, Monmouth, 35% supported the wall across all Americans. Now, my suspicion is that that is a low assessment, 35%. But if the Monmouth poll went from 35% during the Trump administration, which is the low point for support for a wall that they measured, to now 53%, boy, times have changed. And we've got plenty more Americans who are opening their eyes to the reality here. Do you know what the wall would have cost? What were they asking for? $6 billion. Chump change in Washington terms. How much more money have we spent? We've spent so many billions of dollars on tens of millions of illegal immigrants just in 3 short years. We didn't have to do that. We could have built a wall. Biden comes into office, he lets the wall pieces rot in the sun, lying next to the border. They pay contractors not to assemble the wall after they were previously contracted to do it in the first place. They just paid them to do nothing. They would show up, do nothing, get their paycheck, and leave. That's how the federal government operates. And then when a state like Texas actually assembles a wall, puts up a barrier to stop the inflow, the feds cut through it to aid and abet the invasion, which is now why Alejandro Mayorkas, in addition to a bunch of other reasons, has been impeached by the United States House. And so now this is a leverage point. This is a moment where Republicans, should they find their spines and install them in their backs this week, can actually fight to achieve something. Don't let the government shut down. Don't let the government shut down. And I don't want to belittle this. I know that, especially within the sound of my voice, we're here in Washington, D.C. There are going to be people who are affected by a federal government shutdown when it comes to them personally. I understand that. I definitely understand that. And I really wish our federal government hadn't put you in this position to begin with. But what good is any of this if we don't have a country? What good is that? We're completely losing our sovereignty. The Biden administration is doing this to us. And to the extent that Republicans have any recourse whatsoever is to use the leverage that's presented to them to force a better outcome. That's it. And it's unfortunate that it takes any pressure, any compulsory effort whatsoever, but something's got to be done. And so right now, the guy who's standing on our behalf, hopefully, and chaos, is Mike Johnson. So I hope Speaker Johnson's true to his word. I hope he is. It's a mess inside those rooms, those secret rooms where they have these conversations. It typically does not work out to my satisfaction. I'm not usually walking away from it. Boy, Mike Johnson really nailed this one. But he comes out today and says, our priority is America first. We need to take care of our border first. And may God give him the strength to actually live up to what he just said and stick to it. however that needs to happen. All right, let's go to the phones. Line 7 is where we find Michael in Kensington. Michael, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, Vincent, how you doing?
I'm good, sir.
I really love you a lot. I love listening to your show. I have to take some issue with something you just said about being concerned about federal employees and their concerns about a government shutdown. I think I speak for a lot of people in your listening audience. I couldn't care less if the federal government employees have to take a week or two paid vacation. People that actually have jobs that are affected by the economy and not sheltered by the bubble that is D.C. have been dealing with this sort of thing for, even going back to like 07, 08.
That's true.
People that I know that have gone a year without a paycheck, people I know that have lost family members to suicide because of economic situations in their house, people that have lost, had to go on bankrupt and everything. So my suggestion to people in our calling area that are federal government employees that want to whine about a week or two government shutdown, I would keep my mouth shut if I was them, because no one wants to hear it.
Well, I will say this, there are good people who definitely work for the federal government. That's true.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there aren't.
I know you're not saying that.
But they can take a week or two off.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get you, Michael. I totally get you.
For a year.
Here's the point I was making. We've got good people in this audience who would be affected by this. That's the point I'm making. But I still support it. Because something has to be done. If you don't have a country, what's the point? And if there's ever a time to fight to keep it, it's now. It's now. Michael, thank you. Michael's not wrong, by the way. He does speak for a lot of people. I don't care. Fix it. And he's right to call for that. All right, stay with us. I got Mark Paoletta joining us here moments from now. We talked to him about what's going on with one of Hunter Biden's business associates. New testimony just released from the House Oversight Committee, and it is deeply revealing. Mark shares the details. That's ahead. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up 5 o'clock, we talked to Hans von Spakovsky about all of the developments out of Fulton County, Georgia this week, and the likeliness that Fannie Willis will be smacked off of that case. We'll see. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Over at the Washington Times, Susan Ferricchio's got a report today. Fourth witness puts Biden at center of son's business. Jailhouse testimony details talks of deals. Susan writes that this new jailhouse testimony from a former Biden family business associate details at least 2 calls between Hunter Biden and his father, then the vice president, about lucrative business deals with China and Russia. One of the calls puts Mr. Biden in contact with a Russian oligarch and the former mayor of Moscow. Jason Galanis, sentenced to more than 11 years for securities fraud, is now the 4th former business associate to put President Biden in the center of Hunter Biden's enormously profitable business deals as lawmakers investigate him on charges that he helped his family carry out an influence peddling scheme. There was a testimony last week just released in the form of a transcript. Now joining us is Mark Paoletta. He's a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America, co-editor of the book Created Equal, Clarence Thomas's own words, a partner at the law firm of Schaerr Jaffe. And this Jason Galanis is his client, former Hunter Biden business associate. Mark, good to have you with us, sir.
Vince, thanks for having me on.
Give us a sense of who Jason Galanis is first and foremost, why he's serving time in jail, and what his testimony was this past week.
Sure. So Jason Galanis was a business partner of Hunter Biden and Devin Archer, and he was business partners with some other folks out of California, Jason Sugarman. Back a little bit before that, Sugarman was in L.A. And got to know Devin Archer, and that's how he kind of rolls up into Hunter when Hunter and Devin are together. And it sort of gets starts to get some momentum when Chris Hines wants out from the Rosemont-Seneca deal because Hunter and Devin are going on the Burisma board, and he doesn't want to get that dirty, right? Chris Hines kind of basically walks away, warns them on that stuff. And they're looking for, Rosemont was the brand name of sort of the Hunter world, which was Rosemont was connected to the Hines family. So all to say, Jason comes in, he's a financial businessman, does lots of deals, and they want to build this, as he says in his testimony, go from millions to billions. And they take over this firm called Burnham, which is the legacy firm from Drexel Burnham Lambert. And they're going to build out that company with Hunter. Hunter's the vice chairman of this company. Everyone likes to kind of memory hold that. And they do lots of deals. And some of them are with Yelena Baturina, right, the Russian oligarch.
Yes.
She's an investor in Devin Archer's company, Rosemont Realty. She's in for about $105 million. And they want to get her to do more deals with them. And so one of the things that Jason Galanis is assigned to do is to get her a U.S. bank account because there's all red flags on her and she can't open one up. And he literally goes to a bunch of banks. He gets her passport and all her information, works closely with her to try and open up a bank account. They're able to open up one, gets rejected at a bunch of others. But it's in that effort to make her happy because they think she'll do like $50 to $100 million. And there's a party that Jason gets invited to. It's at this place called Romanoff's in Brooklyn. It's on Hunter Biden's calendar. Jason has an invite that he produced to me and where I was able to obtain and produce to the committee that shows that they were this party together. And at this party, Hunter says, let's go over into this foyer area. It was a birthday party for a 1-year-old, a little crowd, like 100 people there. But they go over to this foyer, and he says, I'm going to call my father. And it's Yelena Baturina and her husband, the former mayor of Moscow, Devin Archer, and Jason. And Hunter says, hey, Pops, I'm here with the friends I told you about from out of town. And the vice president says, great. He clearly knows who they are, according to Jason. It's kind of, sort of this pre-scripted call. And Yelena says hi to the vice president. The vice president says hello. And then he says, you take care of my boy. Take good care of my boy, I think is the quote that Jason had. And Hunter said, things are moving along and we're moving forward. And the president said something about being helpful, and they hung up. And guess what? That was a May 4th, 2014 call. 5 days later, there's an email that Yelena Baturina is in for $10 to $20 million on a new Burnham investment project. Hard commit, it says in the email. So you see what this business sort of effort is with Hunter Biden and his father. And I think what Jason, sort of stepping back, is what Jason does is he's a person who's there at the time. Some of these other witnesses are after, right? Some of these after the vice presidency. Jason is here. The entire premise of working with Hunter Biden was to bring the brand name, right, the Biden name, to the relationship capital, as he calls it, to these business deals where they're trying to get foreign money in particular.
So, but the testimony here is that Biden, that is Joe Biden, told a Russian oligarch, be good to my boy, and she delivered 5 days later a hard order of between $10 and $20 million to Hunter's firm.
It was a commitment, that I don't think that, again, this was at a time when the deal, I'm not sure the deal went forward. It was a win project, but you see the machinations of this happening. Just like the largest project that you see, and there's tons of emails on this, is their effort to join forces, Vince, with this. So this is this Burnham company that was about a $17 billion enterprise, and they want to grow it to about $170 billion. Mm-hmm. And Harvest, which is this gigantic, I think it's called the Fidelity of China, Harvest Management Fund is very, very interested in doing a deal with Burnham. Okay, and you see these emails back and forth with Hunter and Henry Zhao, who's the head of Harvest, okay, major figure. And the premise is that Joe Biden, okay, is going to join the firm after his vice presidency and go on the board of directors. And so you see this dance between Burnham and Harvest. And there's a draft email that was produced to the committee which was written by one of Hunter's colleagues, that certainly reflects what's going on because it's a very specific thing. And it says this is to be from Hunter to essentially Michael Lynn, who's a colleague, a connection to Henry Zhao. It says, Michael, please also remind Henry Zhao of our conversation about a board seat for a certain relation of mine. Devin and I golfed with that relation earlier last week, and we discussed this very idea again. And as always, he remains very, very keen on the opportunity. Okay. Now, this section was sort of shared with Jason, with Devin affirming what was the contents. Devin is part of that golf outing.
Right.
And this email is on August 23rd of 2014. And everyone's familiar with that famous photo of Devin Archer and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden golfing, right? There's this other fourth person there who's really not connected.
There's a foursome. They're just standing outside. They're obviously golfing. Yes.
Yes. Okay. That golf game, outing takes place somewhere between August 12th and August 19th because there's a news account of Joe Biden being up there in the Hamptons, right? And this email is August 23rd, right? Looking back earlier last week, which would have been the end of the week before, okay? So it places it exactly when this golf match, golf outing happens and this conversation takes place. Now, Hunter takes this out because they had this, Jason said they had this operating principle: write it, regret it, say it, forget it. Okay, so I think this is written clearly with the understanding of what had happened and what they wanted to convey for Michael Lynn to send on to Henry Zhao. Okay, but Hunter is cautious, if you will, or more careful about putting some of this incriminating stuff in writing. So it's dropped from the final email that goes out to Michael Lynn to kind of send the message on to Henry Zhao with Harvest. But it clearly shows that Joe Biden was engaged with his son's business as vice president and was doing things to help facilitate the business, because that's what this is all about. Now, Jason Galanis testified for several hours before the committee. He says, is he aware of any official acts that the vice president took in terms of that? That's, of course, what the Democrats want to get out on. And he doesn't know. He's not aware of that. What he saw as an eyewitness, as a business partner at the time, working closely with Hunter Biden and Devin Archer, was that Joe Biden was clearly involved with what Hunter Biden was doing,
yes.
And he saw interactions with the vice president and his son to help facilitate those business deals.
Well, and based on the public evidence, at the very least, Biden is performing very grossly unethical conduct in a number of ways, including getting on the phone to regale a foreign interests, to be engaged in these business deals, flying Hunter Biden on Air Force Two in the service of arranging meetings with these people, going to places like Cafe Milano and meeting with the business partners, getting on the phone with all of these business partners, telling them that they need to take care of my boy. I mean, it sounds like a mob boss telling them that they've got to pay the money. He just keeps popping up in all of these things. And I can't help but notice, by the way, that the Yelena Baturina, who you just referenced, the former first lady of Moscow, she is among the Russian oligarchs who have not been sanctioned by the Biden 100%. Administration. Yep. The Biden administration has sanctioned almost every Russian oligarch you could possibly imagine. They have not sanctioned this woman, and it turns out she's the woman that's enriched the Biden family.
That's 100% right, Vincent. Here's the interesting thing about Jason. So you asked, yes, he was convicted of fraud. He's serving, I think, 16 years he was sentenced to. He's been in prison for 8, and he's done a lot of thinking and regrets. Here's the thing: he owned his past conduct. He regrets it. He's looking forward. He wanted to help the committee. Here's the interesting thing: when you look at the deal for which he was convicted, which is it's called the tribal bonds deal. Okay, that deal for which Devin Archer was also convicted, right? Hunter Biden, right? The money that came out of the tribal bonds, from it, that went to Hunter Biden's firm, Rosemont Seneca Bohai. Okay, it was a 50-50 partnership with Devin Archer, and why Hunter Biden wasn't charged is beyond me. But in the Southern District of New York, when they prosecuted this, I mean, I think it's, and Jason has spent a lot of time looking at it. He's a very smart person, very detailed. He really impressed the committee with his testimony and his recall. But he clearly thinks that the Southern District of New York, and it certainly looks it, retaliated against him, wanted to prosecute him in a way that kept it away from Devin, although they got him for a year, and then really keep it away from Hunter Biden. During CARES Act, right, for COVID, the CARES Act was passed. It said, you can apply and you can serve home confinement. He applied for that in February. He's been a model inmate. He's got the lowest kind of scores in terms of good scores of an inmate. And he was well on his way to getting approved. He last year in February applied. June 9th is basically his final approval. Guess what? The committee, the committee issues, the Oversight Committee issues a subpoena to Devin Archer on June 12th. And guess what? June 13th, the SDNY weighs in to basically say this is a hard no. This guy is not getting out. Okay, and so he, in my view, was retaliated against by the SDNY to keep him in prison and not allow him to be out and have access to all of his records and be able to freely meet. It's been very difficult for me to get Jason ready because he's serving, in prison. You can only talk to him a certain amount of times. You can't go back and forth with him with documents and the like. So it's been very difficult, but I persisted, and got him ready to be interviewed by the committee. They went down there last week.
He testified from jail, correct?
Yeah, it was in like a visiting room. They set it up. So Congressman Andy Biggs was down there. Yeah. Thank God. And guess what? He's going to open up an investigation. He's the subcommittee chairman that oversees the Bureau of Prisons on the department, on the committee on the Judiciary in the House, and he's going to investigate both. Here's the thing. This is tragic. The what I'll call the retaliation of his CARES Act application, and he was sexually assaulted and sexually harassed. In prison by a prison guard or a correctional officer. Repeatedly, all right? And they have a terrible record down there, so, kind of voicing those concerns could get you even worse, right, in trouble. And so he ultimately, because he fears for his safety after a couple other episodes, he reports this to the chaplain. The chaplain brings in the warden. Within 2 hours, Vince, he is taken out of Pensacola, where he was, and driven to Montgomery federal prison camp in Alabama, and that's where he's serving his time. And when he brought this up at the interview, it was a transcribed interview. Yes. The Democrats didn't ask a single question about that. Not a single question. So, keep that in mind. Here's a person, right? Committed crimes. Yes. Convicted. Yes. Owns it. Yes. Serving his time as a model inmate. And he's under the care and custody of the Bureau of Prisons, and this guard who's still walking around, as I understand it, down in Pensacola. Democrats don't care at all about that. No. But Andy Biggs, God bless him, is going to look into both the sexual assault and sexual harassment against Jason Galanis and also the CARES Act retaliation by the Southern District of New York, which we've seen in other instances, being an attack dog for the Biden administration and the Obama administration and the like, and just for the deeper, kind of deeper state. But in any event, Jason provided powerful testimony. His transcript, what I released was his opening statement, which was pretty long, but the transcript will come out soon. And there's going to be a lot more things in there that are going to be very interesting to learn about Hunter Biden and his conduct and his father.
His testimony, of course, is critical because guess what happens tomorrow? Hunter Biden comes in for testimony tomorrow before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. We'll see. That deposition, again, scheduled for tomorrow. We'll see if he pulls another stunt as he appears before Congress. Thank you very much. In the meantime, Mark Paoletta, for all of your excellent work. Great to talk to you today. Thank you, sir. Let's go to the phones. I've got Richard and Manassas on line 4. Richard, good afternoon. You are on the Vince Galanis Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Vince. The problem I have with all this, the Democrats would be easier to deal with if they actually followed the law. There are 36 felony charges in the state of California that can get a illegal alien turned over for removal. They don't follow the law. They just turn these criminals back out on the street, and you have the poor young nursing student in Georgia gets murdered. That's why everybody wants the border closed is because they don't trust politicians to remove them, so they have to keep them out in the first place.
Yeah, it's like negotiating with a Batman villain. Like everything you talk about, they always have the craziest possible idea. They're like, hey, what if we hire a few more cops? All right, my opening offer is open up the insane asylum. You're like, no, this doesn't make any sense at all, actually. Why am I even talking to you? Is there a normal person here we can speak with? Where's your boss? Oh, uh-oh, don't talk to that guy. He can barely do stairs. Coming up, actually, we're gonna play some of that audio for you. Last night, the White House thought they would do a test run with Joe Biden, answering questions in public. It was a total disaster. I've got the audio of that, and Hans von Spakovsky is just minutes away as Fannie Willis's case seems to be dying in Georgia.